Thank you, Ed, very much for your time today. I'm looking forward to talking with you today about your article published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology in 2014, titled A Habit Goal Framework for Depressive Rumination, co-authored by the late Susan Nolan Hoeksema. And we will also be posting access to this article on the SSCP website. Could I ask you to start our discussion here by giving us a brief summary of the habit goal framework that's described in your article?
Yeah, certainly. And I guess I want to start also by acknowledging Susan's role in that paper. It's quite a important paper, both for the theory, but also because it ended up being the last piece of work that we did together before her untimely demise. So it's sort of there as in honour of Susan as much as anything else. So I guess the essence of what we were trying to do with that paper is reconcile two different views that there are in the literature about what happens with rumination. So there's Susan's original view that in depression it's a habitual response style that people do automatically that can make them feel worse. But there's also a very strong literature and evidence in the more cognitive psychology framework that rumination is something that is a naturally occurring process when people's goals aren't met. So there's this idea that it's a normal process to ruminate, to dwell on things when they don't go your way, when you have something unexpectedly go wrong, when there's a loss. But there's this idea there's this normal process that's a state rumination that everyone has. But then for some people, there seems to be this more problematic form of depressive rumination where people get stuck. And what we were really trying to do is, because both seemed equally valid approaches from both the phenomenology and also the science base, and see, is there a way that we can actually link the two? And so I guess the key idea we came up with was that whilst it's normal enough because of cognitive mechanisms that if you've got something that hasn't gone right, if you've got a goal that you would like to be making progress on and you haven't, perhaps because of a loss, such as you might have in depression, that one will keep thinking about that issue until it's in some way resolved. It may also be that if that process happened again and again and again in a consistent context, you might then start to develop the conditions in which you could have stimulus response associative learning, whereby that context becomes enough to trigger the response of thinking about things over and over again. So it can go from something that is happening as a goal-driven process, which is normal and might happen for everybody under the right circumstances, to something that becomes a more habitual process that is less controlled, is more automatic, as we see in depression. And in particular, that might happen if there's a tendency, if that tendency to respond in a ruminative way happens, a sad mood over and over again. And in particular, we made the distinction about how that could move away from problem solving if people are thinking about the situation in a more abstract and more passive way.
So let me summarize briefly what you just said to make sure I've got it. So there's this one literature that rumination is a normal process in response to situations where our goals do not get met. And there's another literature suggesting that rumination is a habit. And so what you and Susan Nolan Hoeksema are trying to do in your article is to tie these two literatures together. And so you're suggesting that in depression, what we often have is a normal process that's gone awry, where rumination may have become habitual and cued by certain stimulus conditions in the environment.
Yeah.